crash mean to Concorde's future?
It wasn't the Paris crash that ended Concorde.
Air France had another incident that was reviewed as quite serious, and I think it half scared the Air France board to death that they would lose another Concorde.
Since 2003, not a single passenger has traveled faster than the speed of sound commercially. An entire generation has grown up never knowing that humans once routinely flew at 1,350 miles per hour, fast enough to outrun the Earth's rotation and land before they took off in local time.
If you'd said in the 1950s that not that long into the next decade we're going to be developing and flying a supersonic airliner, I think people would have laughed.
This is Paul Griffin. He flew the Concorde for British Airways for 6 years until its retirement.
The advancement in technology terms was absolutely fantastic in terms of the aeroplane flying at Mach 2. It wasn't that many years before that Chuck Yeager had gone supersonic in a rocket. You know, he was wearing a spacesuit, and the Concorde design allowed 100 passengers plus the crew to sit there in their shirt sleeves and enjoy a lovely lunch.
In the 1960s, Britain and France embarked on an unprecedented joint venture to create what would become the world's only successful supersonic passenger aircraft. Engineers from both nations tackled seemingly insurmountable challenges with the limited technology of the era. The Concorde's distinctive ogival delta wing design stands as its most visible engineering achievement. This shape mastered the complex aerodynamics of supersonic flight, creating perfect balance between low-speed stability during takeoff and efficient cruising at Mach 2. The result? London to New York in just 3.5 hours, half the time of conventional jets. The ingenious droop snoot solved a critical visibility problem. Like a professional photographer adjusting equipment for the perfect shot, the Concorde's nose cone hinged downward 12.5 degrees during takeoff and landing, giving pilots essential visibility, then returned to its aerodynamic position during cruise. At Mach 2, air friction heated the aircraft's skin to 127 degrees Celsius. Engineers developed special aluminum alloys that maintained structural integrity despite expanding by 30 centimeters during flight. The aircraft was deliberately built with gaps on the ground to accommodate for this remarkable growth at altitude. The fuel system performed a precise balance during acceleration. Fuel automatically transferred between 13 separate tanks, maintaining the optimal center of gravity as the aerodynamic center shifted dramatically during transition to supersonic speeds. Passengers experienced luxury matching the technological brilliance. The exclusive cabin featured 100 seats in a single-class configuration, gourmet meals on fine china, and complimentary champagne. The windows were smaller than conventional aircraft, a structural necessity at supersonic speeds. Passengers enjoyed unprecedented views from 60,000 feet. Concorde's engineering translated into remarkable safety. Before the tragic Air France crash in 2000, the fleet operated for over 30 years without a single passenger fatality. Behind Concorde's technical triumphs lurked a surprising paradox. An aircraft designed to represent the future of aviation was simultaneously fighting for its financial survival. Despite its fame and allure, this supersonic marvel burned through 206 gallons of fuel to carry a single passenger across the Atlantic, 4 times more than conventional aircraft, creating an economic equation that threatened to keep this engineering masterpiece permanently grounded. When Concorde was first announced, the aviation industry responded with unprecedented enthusiasm. More than 100 airlines worldwide placed purchase agreements, anticipating a revolution in air travel. However, this initial optimism quickly evaporated as production costs soared beyond initial projections. When the dust settled, only British Airways and Air France remained committed to the supersonic dream. Concorde faced severe economic challenges from multiple directions. Its limited passenger capacity of 100 to 120 seats created a fundamental disadvantage compared to emerging jumbo jets like the Boeing 747, which could carry over 400 passengers. Regulatory restrictions further complicated the economic picture. Bans on supersonic flight over populated areas due to supersonic booms effectively limited Concorde to transatlantic routes, primarily connecting London and Paris to New York. These geographic constraints severely restricted potential route networks and revenue opportunities. British Airways responded by strategically positioning Concorde as an ultra-luxury product. The airline established premium pricing that reflected its exclusive status, with round-trip tickets reaching approximately $16,000 in today's money.
The cost of a ticket was very high, and it seemed pretty much an elite club to be part of if you were a passenger. Many politicians, rock stars, film stars, business leaders were the only ones that could really afford it until the charter program set out in the late 80s, early 90s, which proved very successful.
Charter flights emerged as another crucial revenue stream, allowing ordinary people to experience supersonic travel for special occasions while expanding the customer base beyond regular wealthy passengers. After finally conquering its financial demons, Concorde faced an entirely different challenge that would forever alter its legacy. While most aviation enthusiasts point to the fiery crash of Air France Flight 4590 as the death knell for supersonic passenger travel, the real story behind Concorde's demise contains unexpected twists that few outside the industry ever learned about. Before we get to the untold story, we need to look at the first incident that set the stage. On July 25, 2000, Concorde's unblemished safety record spanning 3 decades was shattered in just 2 minutes of flight. Air France Flight 4590 crashed shortly after takeoff from Charles de Gaulle Airport, killing all 109 people aboard and 4 individuals on the ground. The aircraft rolled over a titanium strip that had fallen from another plane, puncturing a tire. Rubber fragments flew into the fuel tank, which ruptured and ignited a catastrophic fire. The Concorde carried excess fuel for its journey, and maintenance issues compounded the problem. A critical component was missing from the left-hand undercarriage that had recently undergone servicing. Public confidence collapsed, and authorities grounded all Concordes immediately, the first total stoppage in the program's history. Engineers responded with comprehensive safety modifications. Fuel tanks received Kevlar linings to prevent similar ruptures. The aircraft underwent extensive rewiring and received specially developed burst-resistant tires targeting the specific vulnerabilities exposed by the accident. Concorde returned to service in November 2001 with both ceremony and optimism.
Of course, we were, very relieved when we got airborne again. I will say that there was a profound shock through the fleet, as you can imagine, when the aircraft was grounded. And indeed, when the aircraft was put back into service, a huge sense of relief that we were flying again. But our customer base was not as extensive as it was before.
The psychological impact of the crash, alongside the dramatic post-9/11 travel collapse, created unprecedented difficulties for supersonic transport.
Little known fact is a large percentage of our regular customers went down in 9/11 in the World Trade Center. So, it was a sort of a muted admission into service again. The loads weren't fantastic, but it was great to get flying again. It was marginally profitable, I would say, for a good few months after it entered service.
Even this perfect storm wasn't what ultimately grounded Concorde permanently. Another less publicized incident would soon convince executives that Concorde's era had concluded.
Air France had another incident that was reviewed as quite serious, and I think it half scared the Air France board to death that they would lose another Concorde. It didn't make the headlines. Nobody really found out about it. They had an issue that involved an engine vibration. They shut the engine down at Mach 2, which means you automatically have to slow down. And there's no question they did the correct procedure. They did a precautionary engine shutdown, but that didn't close off a few valves that pulling the fire handle would have closed. And they realized relatively quickly after they'd shut the engine down and got to subsonic speeds that there was a fuel leak in the aeroplane, and they diverted into Halifax and landed with very little fuel. I think that put into motion a series of board meetings with Air France. It made them incredibly nervous that they might have another major incident with it. I think that set the ball in motion of the retirement, really.
The timing proved catastrophic for Air France. The company was preparing for privatization, a financial process subjecting the airline to intense market scrutiny. Another Concorde incident, even non-fatal, threatened devastating damage to investor confidence in company valuation at this critical juncture. Britain and France operated under a treaty regarding Concorde. If either country withdrew from operations, they would still have to contribute to the running costs. This diplomatic entanglement meant that any decision to ground the fleet required delicate political maneuvering. The solution emerged through Airbus, the European manufacturer with predominantly French ownership. Following the engine incident and subsequent diplomatic negotiations concealed from public view, Airbus announced it would cease supporting Concorde's specialized parts and maintenance requirements.
In my opinion, there was a bit of political skullduggery went on in the background, which probably forced the hand of Airbus to stop supporting the aeroplane engineering-wise.
Just shut it all down. Then it's like, oh, you don't have an option because it's just not supported anymore.
Pull the operating certificate of the aeroplane, neither the French nor the British can fly it.
This strategic decision made continued operation impossible for both British Airways and Air France. Griffin's insider account undermines the conventional retirement narrative. The official explanation cited decreased passenger numbers after the Paris crash and post 9/11 travel downturns. The reality, when the Air France engine shutdown happened just before privatization preparations, it created the perfect corporate and political storm to end the supersonic era.